My name is Jacob Miller. I'm 11 years old and I live in Hendersonville, a quiet little town near Nashville, Tennessee. Before all this happened, I was just an ordinary kid, until that day, the day I died. It was a cold December morning. I was in the back seat of my car playing my handheld game. My mother was driving as usual, singing songs from her favorite Christian radio station. We were on our way to visit my grandmother, only 30 minutes away from home. I remember every second of it, as if time had decided to slow down that day. Suddenly a sound, a dry noise, a flash. It was as if the entire world had exploded into silence. A runaway truck sped through a red light right in front of us. And then, darkness. What came next, I will never forget. I don't know how to explain it, but when I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the car. I was no longer anywhere I recognized. And at that moment, I didn't know it yet, but I was dead. They said my heart stopped for 7 minutes. 7 minutes of my mother screaming my name. 7 minutes of the doctors trying to bring me back. 7 minutes of me seeing something that would change my life forever. But before I tell you what I saw and who I saw, I just ask one thing. If you have ever experienced something inexplicable or believe there is something beyond this life, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because what I'm going to tell you from now on is not just a story, it is a warning. And maybe you need to hear this more than you think. I felt no pain, no cold, no fear. It was as if everything around me had stopped. Sound, time, even my thoughts seemed suspended in something that wasn't exactly silence. It was a kind of calm emptiness, but at the same time I felt like something was wrong. Very wrong. Meanwhile, at the hospital, my mother was screaming, but I couldn't hear her. The doctors were running, but I couldn't see her. My heart had stopped at 9:47 in the morning. It had been exactly 7 minutes. I know because I heard the doctors talking later. 7 minutes without a pulse, 7 minutes dead. But for me, it was like crossing an invisible border. The first thing I noticed was a light. It wasn't a light like the sun, it didn't hurt my eyes. It was soft, welcoming. It seemed to call my name, and I felt strange, as if I were floating, as if I no longer had a body. It was like being just a soul. From up there, from somewhere I can't explain, I saw the hospital. I saw my mother kneeling on the floor holding my muddy sneakers. I saw a doctor crying, yes, crying, because he said I was too young. I saw my body, but I felt no fear, none at all. And that's when I realized I was really dead, but it wasn't an end. It was the beginning of something much bigger. I began to move, as if I were being pulled, not with my feet, but with my soul. I was being carried by that light. I didn't fight. I didn't try to turn back, because there was a peace that cannot be described, a peace so deep that for a moment I thought, if this is the end, then it's okay. But it wasn't all right, because I still didn't know where I was going. The tunnel, yes, there was a tunnel, was made of something that looked like liquid light, and at the end of it, there was a presence. I couldn't see a face yet, but I felt something, someone, something pure, something immense. Meanwhile, the hospital doctors activated the defibrillator for the 3rd time. The beeping still hadn't come back. My body was still there, but I was no longer it. And then, in the middle of the light, I heard a voice, but it was no ordinary voice. It was as if it was inside me and around me at the same time. She said, "Jacob, you're not done yet." And in that moment, I knew I was not alone. From here on, everything changed. Because in the next few minutes, I would see something that no human being forgets. I would see the sky. And much more than that, I would see him, that voice. It wasn't like ours. It was as if each word carried a weight that pierced my soul. It wasn't harsh, nor was it authoritative. It was firm, loving, and impossible to ignore. "Jacob, you're not done yet." These words echoed within me like a call. There was no fear, but something inside me was beginning to awaken. It was as if for the first time in my life I was completely awake. The light in front of me began to change. It became even more intense, but it didn't hurt. On the contrary, it seemed to heal everything. My fears, my doubts, even sad memories began to disappear. I felt like I was getting closer to something or someone that knew every detail of my existence. It knew me better than I knew myself. And then the darkness around disappeared. I was in a field. A huge field, with grass that shone as if each blade had a life of its own. The sky was different. There was no sun, but it was bright. There was a gentle breeze that made me feel whole. No pain, no sadness, no questions. There, everything was perfect. But what touched me most was the sound. It was as if the air was filled with music. Not music like the kind we hear here. It was a melody that spoke straight to the heart. And every note said, "You are loved. You always have been." I started walking. Or float, I'm not sure. And the closer I got to the source of that light, the more I felt a presence that brought me to my knees, not out of fear, but out of reverence. And it was at that moment that I saw him. On top of a golden hill, there was a figure. I couldn't see a face clearly, but he shone as if he was made of pure light, and even without words I knew it was Jesus. My body, or whatever I was there, fell. I cried, but not out of sadness. It was as if all the love in the universe had been placed into one being, and he was there looking down at me. Jesus came closer. I couldn't look directly at him, but at the same time, I didn't want to look away. His presence was like fire and water at the same time. I felt ashamed of myself, and at the same time, I felt that I was accepted exactly as I was. He knelt down in front of me. He placed his hand on my shoulder. And without moving his lips, he spoke within me. "Jacob, I have something to show you, but first, you need to remember who you are." I tried to speak, but I couldn't. The words wouldn't come out. He then smiled, and with one touch, my mind was opened. Images began to appear all around me. My childhood, moments I had forgotten, things I had done that hurt people, good things too. But most of all, I saw something that made me tremble. I saw the world, our world. And I saw what was about to happen to him, but I'll tell you about that in the next chapter, because what Jesus showed me will change everything you believe about the future. He showed me everything. Every moment of my life flashed before me like a movie, but it was more than just seeing. I felt it. I felt what other people felt because of me. The words I said without thinking. The times I ignored someone crying. The times I could have done something good and didn't. But even so, he continued to look at me with love. Jesus did not condemn me. He just showed me, made me understand. And with each image, each memory, I felt the weight of who I had been. But along with the weight, there was hope, as if he was saying, "You can still be more." Then the scene changed. We were on something like a crystal mountain, and from there, I saw the whole world. People running, screaming, crying, some hugging each other, others completely alone. I saw cities being covered in darkness. It wasn't the darkness of a lack of light, it was something else, a spiritual darkness. Jesus turned to me and spoke, without sound, but with absolute clarity. The world has forgotten love. It has forgotten forgiveness. It has forgotten me. I felt such a strong grip that I couldn't hold back my tears. They run after things that don't fulfill them. They have strayed from the truth, and that has a price. And then he showed me the future. I saw tragedies, yes, but I also saw hope. I saw people kneeling in simple places like schools and parking lots. I saw children praying silently while adults forgot to give thanks. I saw lights being turned on in the hearts of ordinary people, like you, who are listening to this right now. Jesus looked at me again. "You need to go back." I trembled. "Back? But why?" "Because you will remember and you will tell. And maybe, just maybe, someone who hears it will come back to me." At that moment, something inside me broke. It was as if he was entrusting me with something much bigger than I could carry, but at the same time, I knew I had to accept it. Then, he held my hand, and in that touch, everything I was afraid to be, was purified. As if he was saying, "I will be with you even if you don't see me." And before I could respond, I started to be pulled back. But before he left, he told me something I will never forget. "When you wake up, speak, don't hide. Even if they doubt you, plant the seed." And that's why I'm here now telling you this. But tell me one thing. If it were you there, in my place, would you have come back? Would you have left the peace of heaven to carry out a mission here? Comment below. I want to know what you would do, because your answer may say a lot more about you than you think. When I opened my eyes, I was back. The pain hit me like an explosion. The sound of the machines, the cold light of the hospital, the screams, the cries, it was all too much. But what hurt the most wasn't the body. It was the longing for that place, from the sky, of Jesus. My mother was by my side, completely in shock. She was crying and laughing at the same time, as if she didn't know what to feel. The doctors could hardly believe what they were seeing. One of them, with tears in his eyes, whispered, "This is a miracle." But I knew. It wasn't just a miracle, it was a mission. In the first few days, I barely spoke. Words seemed too small to explain what I had experienced. But inside me, something was pulsing, an urgency, as if a truth was trying to escape my chest, to explode from my heart. So one night, alone in my room, I closed my eyes and asked, "Jesus, help me remember, help me count." And it was as if he answered me again, because in that same instant, everything came back. The message, the exact words. Jesus had told me, "The time is closer than they think." It will not come as in the past with warnings and grandiose signs. It will come in silence, in the heart of each person. The division will not be between religions, but between those who love and those who have forgotten how to love. Those words echoed inside me like bells, and the more I tried to ignore them, the louder they became. It was like carrying a light inside me, and knowing that it would only make sense if I let it shine. I started writing. Pages and pages of things that an 11-year-old would have no way of knowing. I was talking about places I've never been, from people I've never met, of events that were yet to happen, and one last chance. Yes, Jesus spoke of a last chance. Humanity will be tested, not with wars, but with simple choices, and each decision will reveal the truth of the heart. When I told this to the pastor of the church my mother attended, he looked at me in silence for minutes. Then, without saying anything, he knelt down and cried. He said he felt the same thing weeks ago, but thought he was just imagining it. And now, a boy, me, was confirming it all. Some people believed it, others scoffed. But I understood something important. It wasn't about convincing. It was about telling. Plant the seed, and let everyone decide what to do with it. I was just a boy. But I carried within me the greatest message anyone could receive. Come back to love, come back to me, for I have never left any of you. And this message, now it's yours too. The strangest thing was realizing that even after I came back, I wasn't completely here. Part of me still felt heaven. It was as if I lived with one foot in each world. Sometimes, while everyone around me was talking, I would lose myself in silence, remembering the field of light, the touch of Jesus, the gaze that pierced everything I was. But one thing still haunted me. Why me? Why choose an ordinary 11-year-old boy to carry such a big message? And then, one morning, I dreamed. But it wasn't just any dream. It was like I was back there, the same field, the same light, and Jesus standing on top of the hill waiting for me. When I reached him, I asked with tears in my eyes, "Why did the Lord send me back?" He looked at me with such tenderness that my heart could hardly take it. "Because you accepted." And in that moment, everything made sense. Before returning to my body, he gave me a choice that my human mind could not remember until now, but my soul remembered. Yes, I had the choice to stay, to continue in that place without pain, without sadness, without fear, to walk among eternal fields, to be close to him forever. But then I saw my mother's face. She was kneeling in the hospital asking God to let me live. And it was at that moment that I said, "Then send me back." Because even though he's just a boy, I couldn't bear to leave her alone. Jesus then held my face with both hands and said, "This choice is the essence of love, to sacrifice paradise for the other. And that is why you must remember and tell." When I woke up from that vision, I was crying. But it wasn't sadness, it was gratitude. I understood that my mission was more than telling what I saw. It was living in a way that reflected that he would show with every action that heaven is real, that love is real, and that the choice is before each of us every day. You may not have died like me, but believe me, you have choices too, every day, and each of them shows who your heart belongs to. Maybe you are going through a loss right now, or feeling alone, or tired of trying to be strong. And I don't have all the answers, but I can guarantee you one thing. Someone up there knows you by name, and is waiting for just one thing, your choice. I don't remember the exact moment I came back, but the others never forgot. They said my body was cold, that my eyes were lifeless, that for 7 minutes everything had stopped, and that the doctors were already starting to talk to my mother about the worst. That's when the impossible happened. The heart monitor, which was already being turned off, beeped. Bip. A faint, almost timid sound. Bip. Bip. The nurse's eyes widened. The doctor dropped the defibrillator. My mother screamed. And then my eyes opened, slowly, as if I was being born again. The first thing I saw was the white ceiling of the hospital. The second was my mother's face, pale, wet with tears, repeating my name as if she didn't believe it. Jacob, Jacob, Jacob. I wanted to talk. I wanted to say that everything was okay, but my throat hurt, and my soul was still crossing an invisible bridge. The doctors said there was no explanation, that my brain must have been affected by the cardiac arrest, but all the tests were normal. No after effects, no damage, nothing. It's like he's slept, one of the nurses said. But I knew I wasn't sleeping. I had come back from a real place, a place more real than this world. In the following days, something strange began to happen. People would come to visit me, aunts, neighbors, even strangers, and I would stare at them for a few seconds and say things that would leave them speechless, things I had no way of knowing. I told an aunt that she no longer needed to hide the letter she received from an old boyfriend, and she burst into tears. He told a neighbor that he would find the answer to his debt in that dusty Bible on the shelf. He returned 3 days later, saying that inside he found an envelope with money that his father had saved before he died. Nobody understood. Neither do I. But one thing I felt, I was still connected. It was as if the message I received in heaven had not ended. It kept coming in bits and pieces, in glimpses, as if the sky still whispered secrets to me, whispering where and how I should speak. Some doctors wanted to study me, psychologists wanted interviews, but my mother, she just hugged me and said, "You came back to me, that's all that matters." But I knew, deep down, I didn't come back just for her. I came back for you too, so you could hear this now. So you know there is something much bigger waiting for all of us, because I'm just an 11-year-old boy, but I died. I saw the sky, and I came back. And that is only half the story. The next few days were the strangest of my life, not because I felt pain, but because somehow I didn't feel anything anymore. People talked to me, smiling, relieved. They asked me how I was. They said it was a miracle, but inside I felt distant, as if I had left a part of myself somewhere else. I walked around the house as if I were floating. I ate, I slept, I responded, but it was as if my eyes were turned inward, as if my soul was still hearing another voice. My mother began to worry. She said that I had a look in my eyes that wasn't mine, that my eyes were empty. But it was not empty of feelings. It was the weight of everything I had seen, of everything I knew, and that no one else understood. I would stay silent for a long time, sitting near the window looking at the sky, not out of distraction but out of longing. I missed the place where everything made sense, where love was pure, where Jesus looked into my eyes and said, "They will doubt it, but say it anyway." And then one night, as my mother watched me with that look somewhere between fear and love, I finally spoke, short, without emotion, but with a certainty that chilled the entire room. I saw heaven, and he is coming back. My mother stopped. The cup she was holding fell and shattered on the floor. She knelt before me and her voice trembling asked, "Who, son? Who's coming back?" I looked at her, and I didn't respond with words, just with a name, Jesus. From that day on, nothing was the same again. People started coming to our house, some out of curiosity, others out of faith. Some came just to see me, hoping I would tell them something about their lives. And many times, I said, but it wasn't like guessing or predicting things. It was as if someone inside me whispered, "Say it now." And when I spoke, people cried, some knelt, others ran away, but none of them came out the same as they went in. My mother began to write down everything I said. An entire notebook was filled with phrases, dreams, descriptions of the sky, warnings, messages that came from the depths of my soul, and sometimes straight from the sky. One night I said to her, "Mommy, the sky is talking all the time. People have just stopped listening. And maybe you who are watching now feel the same way. Maybe you are also in a deep silence, carrying a longing that you don't know where it comes from. See, for if by chance this longing is for heaven, like mine, so maybe, just maybe, you have something to remember too. After that night, something in me changed forever. It wasn't just what I said, it was what I felt. The things that used to make me laugh now seemed empty. The games I loved no longer appealed to me. I was no longer in a hurry, not even that restlessness typical of children my age. It was as if my time had slowed down, as if I saw everything with different eyes. And maybe that was the strangest thing, my eyes. People commented. They said there was something different about them, more depth, more truth. Some people looked at me and looked away. Others were trapped, as if they were seeing a reflection of themselves. A lady from the church said to me, her voice breaking, "Son, when you look at me, it seems like God is looking at me through you." But I didn't feel special. I felt responsible. Because after everything I saw, I could no longer live like before. It was impossible to pretend that the world was just this. School, home, cell phone, distractions. Everything seemed small compared to what I was carrying. And I knew that somehow people needed to see it. They needed to feel. So I started doing things that no one expected of an 11-year-old boy. I wrote notes with phrases that came to me in my dreams and left them in school lockers. Phrases like, "You are more loved than you know." "Forgiveness frees the giver more than the receiver." "Come home. God is still waiting for you." And one by one, the notes started doing something strange. A girl in my class, who almost never spoke, came up to me quietly and said, "I was going to give up." But that note saved me. A teacher called me and asked if I was being manipulated by an adult, or if someone was forcing me to write that. When I said no, he stood still for a while and whispered, "I dreamed of that same sentence last night." People started changing around me. No screams, no miracles, just with a presence, and I knew it wasn't about me, it was about what was coming through me. I was not a prophet, nor a saint. He was just a boy who saw the sky. And he could no longer live as if he had not seen. And maybe that's the real change, not in gifts, not in pretty words, but in the look. Because when someone sees the sky, for real, he can never see the world the same way again. And you? Is there something inside you that has changed without explanation? A pain that turned into light? A question that turned into a mission? If so, you are not alone. Maybe you're starting to see things differently too. It all started with an interview. A local reporter named Lisa Thompson heard about the boy who came back from the dead and wanted to do a story for the evening news. My mother was hesitant at first, but I knew it. Something inside me said, it was time. The interview was simple. Lisa sat down with me in our living room, turned on the camera, and asked me what I remembered about those 7 minutes when my heart stopped. And I told, no exaggeration, no theatrics, just the truth. I said I was in a place I can't explain, where peace was not only felt but lived. I said I saw Jesus, that he touched me, that he gave me a message. I spoke of the mission. I spoke of the choice. I spoke of the pain and beauty that exist when you carry heaven in your chest even while living here. What no one expected was what would come next. The interview aired on a Friday night around 7 p.m. By 9 p.m., our street was already full of cars. The next day, our house was surrounded by people. Mothers, fathers, young, old, believers and skeptics, all with eyes full of questions. But what struck me most was a tired-looking man holding a folded photo in his hands. He showed me the picture and asked, "Have you seen this person?" I looked. It was a girl, blonde, a slight smile, about 15 years old maybe. And without hesitation I answered, "She was in the field, near the tree with golden leaves." She smiled at me. The man fell to his knees. He cried shamelessly and he said, "That was my daughter. She died in an accident last year. I asked God every day for a sign, just a sign that she was okay." The news spread. Websites began publishing excerpts from the interview. People shared, cried, and debated. But the most surprising thing was the number of letters, messages, and videos that began to arrive. There were thousands. People saying that they had dreamed about me, that they had heard my voice saying phrases that I had written on my notes. People from other cities, even from other countries, reporting similar experiences. But what touched me most was a woman who showed up at our door with a child in her arms. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me. And after a while, she handed me a crumpled piece of paper. On it was a message written in pencil. "Mommy, he knows." I asked her what it meant, and she told me that before she died, her daughter had drawn a field of light and written those words on it. and that when she saw my interview, she felt like she finally understood. From that moment on, my life no longer belonged to me. I could no longer live in hiding. The truth was already exposed, and I understood that when Jesus said, "Speak, even if they doubt," he knew this time would come. It was not easy. I was criticized, judged, called a liar, but none of these words affected me as they had before, because I had seen the truth. And when someone sees the truth, it begins to live inside them, no matter how much they try to keep it quiet. Today, when I close my eyes, I still hear Jesus' voice echoing inside me, telling me to keep going, reminding me that the message is not about fame, miracles, or applause. It's about awakening. And if you've come this far, maybe this message is for you too. After the interview, everything changed. What had once been silence turned to noise. The once quiet streets of Hendersonville began to welcome people from all over the state. People came out of faith. Others came out of curiosity. Some came out of a desperate need to believe that there was something beyond the pain they carried. But not everyone was ready to listen, and that's when the resistance began. First came the comments on social media. People said it was impossible, that it was all made up, that my family was manipulating everything for attention. Then came the television programs trying to deny the story. Psychologists and scientists tried to explain what happened to me as a brain hallucination, a dissociative experience, or a creation of the child's mind. But inside of me, I knew it was real. I knew what I saw, and I knew that the doubt growing outside was the beginning of something bigger. It was at that moment that a man approached me in a different way. He didn't want fame, he didn't want confrontation, he wanted to understand. His name was Pastor Daniel Collins, the leader of a small church that was only 15 minutes from our house. He came with a notebook full of notes, tired eyes, and a heart that seemed divided. He sat down across from me, looked into my eyes for several long seconds and said, "Jacob, I believe, but I need you to tell me something that no one else can know." I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a few moments and said, "The night before your son died, he prayed out loud for the first time, and you overheard him, but you never told anyone." He froze. The tears came uncontrollably. The truth he had been hiding for years was now exposed, and there was no denying it. I asked for a sign that God was still speaking to us, and you are the sign. After that, the pastor began to study everything I said. He cross-referenced my words with ancient texts from the Bible, with forgotten prophecies, with visions of saints, and even reports of other NDEs, and what he discovered left him in shock. Many of the things I wrote matched ancient accounts, things I would never have access to, whole sentences that matched passages from ancient manuscripts, dreams of people separated by centuries and oceans. But there was something even stranger: dates. Some of the messages I received came with numbers, seemingly random sequences. The pastor analyzed them and realized that some of these dates marked tragedies that had not yet happened, and when they did, no one could ignore them. That's when the city began to divide. On one side, those who create, who knelt in squares, held vigils, transformed their routines into silence and prayer. On the other, those who mocked. They said it was all a big theater, who did not accept the idea that God could speak through a child. Churches began to empty or fill up, depending on the sermon. But what hurt me the most was seeing faith and skepticism fighting within the same people, as if the heart wanted to believe, but the mind screamed for proof. And all this reminded me of what Jesus said before I returned. It is not doubt that destroys faith. It is the fear of hearing the truth. And maybe that's exactly the fear you're feeling right now too, because deep down something inside you already knows. Time passed. I turned 12, but inside I felt like I had lived much longer. My days were still simple: school, home, prayers at night. But every little gesture, every person who crossed my path, I looked at with different eyes. I knew there was a purpose in every encounter. I knew that time was running out, even if no one could see it. And then, it happened again. It was a silent night, when the city was asleep and the sky was clear. I woke up in the middle of the night, my heart racing as if I were being called. I got out of bed and went to the window. The world outside seemed the same, but inside me, something was trembling. And it was there, in front of the cold glass, that the vision began. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't imagination. It was real as that first time. The room disappeared. I was in the golden field again, but this time he was different, more intense, as if something was about to happen. On top of the hill I saw Jesus, but now he was standing, no longer serene, but with a firm and profound gaze, like someone preparing to announce something that will change everything. He didn't say a word. He just reached out, and when he touched my chest, a light exploded inside me. I saw images, many, fast, intense, overlapping. I saw crowds looking up at the sky. I saw people kneeling, crying. I saw parents hugging their children. I saw people running to churches and others running away from them. I saw love and I saw fear. I saw the world dividing, not into wars, but into choices. And then I heard his voice, clear as never before. This is your last vision, and with it, your last message. The images disappeared. Everything went back to calm. But I knew that what I needed to do hadn't been done yet. I went back to my room, my body sweating and my heart racing. I grabbed a pen and paper and wrote. I didn't think, I just let it out. Words, phrases, instructions, a request, a warning, a call. I put everything in an envelope. I wrote, "Open when I'm no longer here," and I gave it to my mother the next day. She smiled, thinking it was just another one of my messages, as she called it. But deep down I knew this was the last one. 2 days later, I was in my backyard, looking up at the sky, when I felt such peace that I fell to my knees. I felt my heart slow down. My vision went black, and before it all disappeared, I heard it again. "Now you are finished." I don't remember the rest. I only know what they told me. My body was found right there, on my knees, with a slight smile on my face and my eyes open, as if I were looking beyond what others could see. My mother only opened the envelope 2 days later, and when she read it, she fell to her knees. The words were there, clear, direct. The time is near. Return to what is eternal. Return to love. Return to me. After that, the letter was shared, translated, published, and it reached places I never imagined. People changed, homes were restored, and even though many still doubt, something inside them was touched. Because the truth is this, it wasn't about me. It was about you, about your soul, about your chance, and now the choice is no longer mine. It's yours. If you've come this far, it's because something inside you has been touched. Maybe it was a memory. Maybe it was an answer you didn't even know you were looking for. Or maybe it was just that feeling that there is something bigger calling you back home. If this story spoke to your heart, leave your like, not only to support, but to tell the world that there is still room for faith, emotion, and stories that awaken the soul. And if you felt this presence with you during the video, comment below. I choose to return. These 3 words will show that you not only heard the message, you received. It is clear. Subscribe to the channel, because other stories like this are coming. Real, profound, and that can transform the way you see life. The next video is already on the screen. Click on it. Some answers don't come by chance, and maybe what's there change everything for you.